is Wednesday, May 19. Welcome to CGN News. Trinidad's police commissioner has cautioned members of the public against sharing fake news. Loop News reports that this follows a post initially published by a Facebook user who claimed Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley suffered a heart attack and died. The poster tried to validate the allegation, stating, quote, "My aunt, who is a minister, has informed me," end quote. Responding to the claims, Commissioner Gary Griffith stressed the need to balance responsibility with the constitutionally enshrined freedom of expression. Griffith added that while he acknowledges that members of the public have the right to freedom of speech, such rights ought not to be exercised without due consideration of its effects. Jamaica has been dubbed one of the big three Caribbean tourism economies, ranking the 13th most tourism-dependent economy in the world. The island scored 38.7 out of a possible 100 on the latest Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, Tourism Dependency Index, calculated for 166 countries. Rounding out the big three are the Bahamas and Barbados, ranking 6th and 11th respectively. The latest IDB Caribbean Quarterly Bulletin says 2020 represented a contraction of visitor arrivals of 76% for the Bahamas, 69% for Jamaica, and 67% for Barbados. The Jamaican Parliament is to debate a bill proposing that tattoos and other symbols be used under the anti-gang legislation to identify criminals. The current act stipulates that the court can take into account whether the person has admitted to being part of the gang or evidence of criminal activity that indicates involvement with a criminal organization. If the amendment is passed, any symbols or markings on or in the possession of the person could be used to point out gang members. But anthropologist Dr. Herbert Gale contends that the amendment might not be as useful as Jamaican gangs, unlike those in Latin America, are not heavy users of tattoos to denote association. The Trinidad government is moving to ensure that the country benefits from the United States' plan to share an additional 20 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine with the world. Foreign Minister Dr. Amory Brown told the legislators that he met with the U.S. Embassy Chargé d'Affaires to discuss the matter soon after President Joe Biden announced the initiative. Biden said Monday that the doses will come from existing Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson vaccine stocks. This marks the first time that U.S.-controlled doses of vaccines authorized for use in the country will be shared overseas. It will boost the global vaccine sharing commitment from the U.S. to 80 million. The Jamaican government has given approval for a third telecoms provider, Rock Mobile, a wholly Jamaican-owned company which joins telecoms giants Digicel and Flow. Rock Mobile is to achieve full implementation of service within 2 years. Technology Minister Darrell Vaz made the announcement during his contribution to the sectoral debate in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. Rock Mobile will be required to deploy its network in keeping with the coverage and implementation timing in the bid. This includes the provision of 95% population coverage of unserved and underserved communities at a specified minimum download data rate. Mexico mounted a final push Tuesday to get all of the country's 3 million school teachers vaccinated. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said that getting kids back into classrooms was an urgent necessity, as much for their social development as anything else. Vaccination teams fanned out in Mexico City and 4 other states on Tuesday, the AP reported. Officials estimate that 2 million teachers are already vaccinated and hope to inject 520,000 this week. That would only leave a couple of states for the last week in May. López Obrador said individual states would decide on a reopening date, but said he hoped that most schools would reopen for at least a few weeks before the summer vacation. The world's most famous statue of Jesus Christ was lit up in Rio de Janeiro to promote vaccine equality as Brazil and developing countries struggle to protect residents from COVID-19. In January, 2 healthcare workers received the first shots of coronavirus vaccines at the foot of the statue as Brazil kicked off its vaccination campaign. Since then, 17% of residents have received at least one dose of vaccine and 8% have been fully vaccinated. Spain has deployed troops after record numbers of migrants entered its North African enclave of Ceuta from Morocco. Some 8,000 people have reached Ceuta in 2 days, Spanish officials say. They say the migrants, who include about 1,500 minors, either swam around the border fences that jut out into the sea or walked across at low tide. Spain says around half of the migrants have been sent back to Morocco. Dramatic scenes were captured offshore as families waded through the water and officers from Spain's Guardia Civil went into the sea to rescue young children. The Serum Institute of India says it hopes to restart delivery of COVID-19 vaccines by the end of the year. In March, the institute, the main supplier of COVID-19 vaccine doses to COVAX, said it was suspending exports to deal with the surge of cases in India. It was announced that the delay would affect about 90 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines, but that they expected deliveries to resume by June. And finally, Singapore on Wednesday said it noted with regret that the U.S. Embassy had co-hosted a webinar with a local LGBT support group earlier this week. In Singapore, foreigners are prohibited from participating in events dealing with a political cause. The Foreign Affairs Ministry, in a statement, reminded the U.S. Embassy that foreign missions are not to interfere in the country's domestic, social, and political matters, including issues such as how sexual orientation should be dealt with in public policy. These are choices for only Singaporeans to debate and decide, the statement said. The May 17 webinar marked the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia and focused on the economic advantages of LGBTQ and equality and inclusion around the world, the U.S. Embassy in Singapore said. That's it for CGN News. I'm Scott Wilson. Thanks for watching.